Have you ever noticed how quickly politics can change? One moment it feels like the future is set in stone, and the next, the entire political map is being redrawn before our eyes. That's exactly what's happening right now in the UK. Just 1 minute ago, the clash between Labour and the Conservatives reached a brand new stage, and the stakes have never been higher. This isn't just politics as usual. This is a battle for the soul of the country, and you're about to see why. For years, the battle lines between Labour and the Conservatives have been clear, almost predictable. The Tories traditionally spoke to those who valued stability, tradition and free market economics. Labour, on the other hand, stood as the voice of working people, promising fairness, opportunity and protection for those left behind. But what we are witnessing now is a shift that could change the future of British politics for decades to come. Let's start with the Conservatives. After years in power, they've faced crisis after crisis, from Brexit turbulence to the pandemic, from the cost of living struggles to leadership dramas. Each challenge has chipped away at their authority. Once the Conservatives could confidently claim they were the party of economic competence. But with inflation, rising interest rates and household budgets squeezed to breaking point, that claim is being questioned like never before. Many ordinary people are asking, are the Tories really looking after us anymore, or are they just looking after themselves? Meanwhile, Labour has sensed its moment. After spending years in the political wilderness, torn apart by internal fights and leadership struggles, the party has worked hard to rebuild. Under new leadership, they're presenting themselves not just as an alternative, but as the only credible choice for change. Labour is positioning itself as calm, competent and ready to govern. Words that resonate strongly with people who feel exhausted by years of Conservative turbulence. But here's the twist. This isn't just about policy differences anymore. It's about trust, character and who the British people believe can actually deliver. For the first time in a long while, Labour seems to be winning that argument. Polls suggest that voters are more willing to give Labour another chance, something that felt almost impossible just a few years ago. And the Conservatives? They know it. That's why we're seeing them redraw their strategies, trying to appeal to both their traditional base and the growing number of undecided voters who are simply fed up with politics as usual. Think of it this way. Britain feels like it's standing at a crossroads. On one path, the Conservatives argue for continuity, stick with us, and we'll guide the country through difficult waters. On the other path, Labour says enough is enough, it's time to turn the page and start fresh. The problem is, both sides know the public mood has changed. People are angrier, more impatient and less trusting of politicians than ever before. That makes this fight not just about who has the better policies, but about who can convince people they're actually worth believing in. And here's where the battle gets even more interesting. The Conservatives are leaning heavily into culture wars, law and order, and national pride, issues that strike a chord with parts of the electorate. Labour, on the other hand, is focusing on cost of living, health and education, tapping into the daily struggles that people face in their homes and communities. These two approaches couldn't feel more different, but they both aim at the same goal: to capture the mood of a nation that is restless and demanding answers. But ask yourself, is this really a straight fight between two parties, or are we seeing something deeper? A complete reshaping of political identity in Britain? That's the real story unfolding before our eyes, and this is only the beginning. In the next part, we'll dig into the strategies, the risks, and the surprises that could decide who comes out on top in this historic showdown. So where does this fight go next? If part one showed us how the battle lines are being redrawn, part two is about what happens when the fighting actually begins, because make no mistake, this isn't going to be a gentle contest of ideas. It's shaping up to be one of the fiercest political battles in modern British history. Let's start with the Conservatives. They know they're on the back foot, but they're not going down without a fight. Their strategy is clear. They want to frame themselves as the party of stability and strength, the safe pair of hands in uncertain times. Expect them to double down on issues like national security, immigration, and law and order. These are areas where they believe Labour is vulnerable and where they can still strike a chord with voters who feel anxious about the future. The message is simple. You may not love us, but can you really trust the other lot? At the same time, the Conservatives are trying to rewrite the economic story. They'll argue that tough decisions now mean a better future later, hoping that people will buy into the idea of patience and endurance. But the risk is obvious. Families struggling with bills and mortgages may not want to wait any longer. In politics, hope beats patience every single time, and right now Labour is offering hope. Now let's turn to Labour. Their task is not as easy as it might look. Yes, the polls are in their favour, and yes, the public mood is shifting, but Labour has been here before and lost. Their biggest challenge is to convince people not just that the Conservatives are failing, but that Labour really is ready to govern. After all, memories of past divisions, economic doubts and leadership controversies still linger. One wrong step could bring all of that crashing back. This is why Labour is being so careful. They're presenting themselves as calm, sensible and professional, sometimes even a little cautious. They know they can't afford wild promises that can be torn apart by their opponents. Instead, they want to look like the grown-ups in the room, the party that has learned its lessons and is now ready to lead with confidence. But here's the catch. Too much caution could make them look bland or uninspiring. And in politics, boring doesn't always win. So what are the risks for each side? For the Conservatives, the danger is obvious. They could lose not just this election, but their reputation as the natural party of government. A heavy defeat could trigger years of infighting, leadership battles, and an identity crisis that might push them out of power for a generation. For Labour, the risk is different. If they win but fail to deliver, they could end up repeating the same cycle of disappointment that has plagued British politics for decades. And if they somehow lose after all the momentum they've built, it could shatter their credibility for years to come. But here's the twist. This fight isn't just about Labour and the Conservatives anymore. Smaller parties are quietly waiting in the wings, ready to step into the spotlight. The Liberal Democrats, the Greens, and even new movements could play a bigger role than expected. And let's not forget Scotland, where the SNP has its own powerful influence. All of this makes the political chessboard far more complicated and far more unpredictable. So where does this leave the British public? Stuck in the middle of two competing visions of the future. On one side, a Conservative party arguing that experience and tradition are the keys to stability. On the other, a Labour party saying the time for change has finally arrived. The question is, which message will strike the loudest chord with voters when the moment of truth arrives? And let's be honest, the people are watching carefully. They've seen promises broken before. They've seen leaders rise and fall in the blink of an eye. This time, trust will decide everything. Not flashy slogans, not clever sound bites, but whether ordinary men and women actually believe what they're being told. And that's why both parties are treading carefully. They know the stakes could not be higher. Here's the final thought. Just 1 minute ago, the battle lines were redrawn. But 1 minute from now, everything could change again. That's politics. It moves fast, it surprises us, and it never plays by the rules. What we do know is this: the fight between Labour and the Conservatives is far from over. In fact, it's only just beginning. And when the dust settles, Britain may look very different from the country we see today. So keep watching closely, because the decisions made now, the arguments fought now, and the leaders chosen now will shape not just the next election, but the next generation.